I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Popok from Legal AF. We've got a big breaking news update. Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's former chief of staff, it is now officially confirmed, was granted immunity by special counsel Jack Smith's team in connection with the ongoing prosecution into Donald Trump's attempt to overthrow the results of the 2020 election. Trial is scheduled for March of 2024. We called it here on Legal AF and the MeidasTouch network when the indictment was unsealed. We thought there was no other way to read that indictment other than to suggest that Meadows, Donald Trump's former chief of staff, was cooperating. And look, some people criticized us for making that predictions. I was reading that in some of the comments looking back at when the indictment was unsealed, but it is officially confirmed. ABC News broke the news that this is official. Michael Popok, give us the facts and the import. How big is this? Learning that Mark Meadows went before the grand jury after getting this immunity deal, learning that Mark Meadows has provided some bombshell testimony as well. The details in this ABC report that just broke moments ago.
I thought today was going to be all about the third Trump lawyer, Jenna Ellis, pleading guilty in Georgia, but no, Jack Smith found a way to steal the show a little bit from Fani Willis. But as you said, the fact that the former chief of staff, who Donald Trump has frequently complimented and lauded, you'll compare that to what he'll do now in social media to attack Mark Meadows. But in the past, it had always been great guy, loyal guy I can trust. That same guy is the same guy who went in June of this past summer, June of 2023. We knew that he went into the grand jury because the comings and goings to the grand jury are public. We just don't know what happens once they get behind that locked and secret door. But when his lawyer, Mr. Terwilliger, was questioned about what the testimony would be like, he says, "I'm not going to reveal that. I will just tell you that he told the truth." And now we know from ABC that truth is that he is told on 3 or more separate occasions, including in front of the grand jury, that he told Donald Trump in no uncertain terms that Donald Trump's belief that there was massive fraud that was outcome determinative of the election was wrong. That there was no massive fraud that could be that could be pointed to turn the election in favor of Donald Trump, and he also told the prosecutors, Mark Meadows told the prosecutors that Donald Trump, and he was told by Mark Meadows that Donald Trump declaring victory on November the 3rd on election night, saying that of all the votes that were cast today, I am the winner, was also underhanded and dishonest, and that he believed that and told that to Donald Trump as well. And the things that we don't know, that's just a couple of pieces from the ABC reporting. What we don't know is all of the other topics that Mark Meadows is a prime historical figure competent to testify about under oath. I mean, there is nobody that was closer to Donald Trump and Donald Trump's efforts to cling to power and stop the peaceful transfer, I suggest, than Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows, the one who coordinated and placed the call with Donald Trump to Brad Raffensperger in Georgia to try to find 11,870 or whatever it is votes. Brad Raffensperger, who went on the ground to try to get into election counting rooms to try to stop the count or get information, offered to use campaign funds to facilitate the audit that was being done in certain places like in Georgia. Him being the gatekeeper to let people in or out of the Oval Office in the White House. So every time you heard stories or truth about, a December meeting attended by Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, the Overstock.com guy, and the then president of the United States, that was Mark Meadows allowed that to happen. And when they were pushing Donald Trump to declare martial law, seize voting machines, and the like, and point Sidney Powell, who's already now a convicted felon, a convicted criminal under a misdemeanor in Georgia, appoint her special counsel in charge of election fraud. All those things happened on Mark Meadows' watch. Mark Meadows also a lead witness in all things Mar-a-Lago about the transition of documents, the taking of national defense information classified documents from the White House in the waning days of the Trump administration and bringing them to places like Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster. That Mark Meadows. And when we got it, and you're so right, Ben, when we got that indictment just 2 months after Mark Meadows testified, we knew he testified in June. We get the indictment. It's hard to believe it was just in August, but we get an August 1st, 2023 indictment of Donald Trump in DC by Jack Smith, special counsel. This is the case that Judge Chutkin is presiding over. And when we went through it, the 4 counts of conspiracy, the 1 defendant, Donald Trump, and the 6 different unindicted for now co-conspirators, we're looking for Mark Meadows' name. Got to be there. Mark Meadows? Mark Meadows has got indicted in Georgia. He did so many bad things. And we're looking and we don't see it. And so right away, not even in the unindicted co-conspirators, even the ones we figured out were Boris Epstein and were Sidney Powell and Jeff Clark. And, this one is Rudy Giuliani. And we're like, where is Rudy? I mean, where is Mark Meadows? Nowhere. And so right away, you and I, doing this a long time, said, Mark Meadows flipped. I don't know what his immunity deal looks like, but there is no way a sophisticated lawyer like Mr. Terwilliger would let Mark Meadows testify and cooperate with Jack Smith without getting him out of harm's way. The only difference, I believe, and I want to hear your view on this one, is I don't think there's a plea deal. I don't think he had to plead to anything in order to get the immunity. Just tell the truth, at least for now, to Jack Smith, unless there's an indictment in the future that'll get unsealed and he'll plead at that time. What do you think, Ben?
I don't think he had to plead to anything. I think his cooperation through the proffer agreements was being judged and evaluated. Special Counsel Jack Smith kept all options on the table. We know there were at least 2 proffer sessions and then 1 actual provision of testimony by Meadows before the grand jury. And I think that all of the facts suggest that, at least as of now, Special Counsel Jack Smith believes that cooperation was such that charges were not required to be brought. Doesn't mean that in the future, when Mark Meadows testifies at trial, when it commences in March of 2024, if he somehow deviates from his proffer session, that could change. But as of now, I tend to agree with you, Michael Popok, that there is no charges that are pending, or that Meadows is not having to agree to any sort of plea agreement. But it's only Tuesday this week, yet it feels like this week is already 1 year long, or perhaps this day is a full year, with all of the developments. You mentioned it, that earlier in the day, there was the guilty plea by Jenna Ellis with those crocodile tears. Then there was the testimony of Michael Cohen in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case. And then shortly thereafter, there was this news about Mark Meadows' cooperation and the immunity deal. Let me just give a few more facts from this ABC article. As I mentioned, there were at least 2 meetings between Meadows and Jack Smith's team, plus testimony that was given by Meadows before the grand jury. Sources said Meadows informed Smith's team that he repeatedly told Trump in the weeks after the 2020 presidential election that the allegations of significant voting fraud coming to them were baseless. Further, according to sources, Meadows also told the federal investigators Trump was being dishonest with the public when he first claimed to have won the election, hours after polls closed on November 3rd, 2020. Meadows went on to explain to the prosecutors that obviously not, he said, when there was any evidence presented, any actual evidence of fraud. He said, obviously not, is being reported by ABC. And then Meadows went on to talk about setting up the phone call where Donald Trump extorted Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia. So a lot of damaging testimony indeed. Popok, I want to give you the final word here.
Yeah, and there's just 3 other areas that just reminded me where Mark Meadows is jackpot for Jack Smith and prosecutors. We know from other reporting and from the Jan 6 committee report that Mark Meadows was in the room with Donald Trump when an outside fraud examiner company that Donald Trump bought and paid for reported to both of them while Meadows was in the room that there was no outcome determinative fraud anywhere. Meadows was the liaison between Donald Trump and the Trump campaign. Mark Meadows helped hire the lawyers that were used by the Trump campaign in order to cling to power and to stop the peaceful transfer. That includes Cleta Mitchell, Jenna Ellis, Ray Smith, and the like. They all went through Mark Meadows. And he was also a collaborator and a coordinator of the fake elector scheme involving Mike Roman, Ken Chesbrough, now a felon, and John Eastman, all ran through Mark Meadows. We learned a lot of that in the Georgia process and also, of course, in the Jan 6 committee notes. If Mark Meadows just testifies to Jack Smith truthfully about every time he's mentioned with the evidence and the receipts in the Jan 6 report, Donald, this should be another sleepless night for Donald Trump.
Well, breaking news after breaking news today. We are honored to be able to report it here as it breaks on Legal AF on the MeidasTouch network. Hide the ketchup, folks, from Donald Trump, or perhaps he doesn't need the ketchup because he'll probably just say Mark Meadows, who I barely knew that guy. I'm Ben Meiselas from Legal AF, joined by Michael Popok. Make sure you hit subscribe, and please subscribe to the Legal AF audio podcast, wherever podcasts are available. Have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.